Hey guys, I'm back with another video. I just want to do a quick update with some stuff that I've been playing around with and carrying. It's been a while since I've done a video at all, so this one might be kind of a good one. So pretty recently I've switched to carrying appendix a lot of the time, and I've played with a couple other kind of cheap appendix holsters to kind of see if I liked it or not. Decided that it does work pretty well for me, and I'd like to invest in a better quality holster. And so I ended up buying a Tlr-1 concealed Axis Elite appendix holster, which initially was going to be for a Glock 19 with the TLR1, but after having it for a while and wearing it for a couple of weeks, I realized that it's probably pretty possible to carry a larger gun because of how well this holster conceals. And so I switched over to a Glock 17 with TLR1 for a little while, and other than a little bit of it poking out the end, it fits just as good almost as the 19 and conceals equally as well. For the first time, I'm not really struggling with concealing the grip anymore. And to be quite honest, the only part that I was struggling with for the first couple of weeks was the light, just because of where it sits and rubs against my leg when I carry appendix. But that being said, since it works so well with this holster, I decided that I wanted to upgrade myself. I never owned a Gen 5 Glock before, and so I settled on the Glock 45. So we'll talk about that real quick, and then we'll talk some more about the holster. So this is the Glock 45. It's essentially Gen 5. I've done very little to it. It's going to be entirely stock. It is the MOS, as you can tell. So starting from the bottom, I chose to go with some tan parts, just because I'd never had another color gun before. Everything I've ever owned has just been stock and black. So I thought it'd be fun to play around with this a little bit, especially since people aren't really going to be seeing this. So I got the tan Tlr-1 Hl, which, if you didn't know, this actually comes in Streamlight's kind of FDE and then an actual tan. This is the actual tan one, which you can tell is getting marred up a little bit by some Safariland holsters that I've been running as well. This is a Tango Down Mag release in Glock Tan, which happens to fit this pretty well, and then basically just 19X magazines that are kind of that peanut butter color, but they're close enough to be worth it for me. Like I said, this is the MOS, so this is a Holosun 507C, which right now I have, it's kind of hard to tell, just the dot, just the 2 MOA dot. My backup iron sights are flat, all black. You can tell, no tritium, no dot, Ameriglo suppressor sights. They sit in the just barely bottom of my glass. I really didn't, since I've never really been a red dot shooter before, this is actually my first one ever. I didn't really want the iron sights to be obscuring so much of the glass, and so I chose to go with as low as I could, with still having the ability to co-witness if I needed to, because technically, and this may just be the way that I have it zeroed, my dot does not actually sit where my iron sights do because of how low the iron sights are. So I've essentially sighted them in differently at different, I guess difference kind of a strong word. They're basically the same out to 20 yards, which is what I have it zeroed, the dot zeroed for. It's just a little bit different of an angle to look through. I'd have to purposely look at the iron sights or the dot, depending on what I wanted to have done. When the dot is turned off, it's pretty easy just to look through the iron sights. They don't sit that much taller than traditional sights, especially if you're used to something like Trijicon HDs. They're really not all that much taller, just enough to get over the bezel of the red dot. I probably will do a more in-depth review on the red dot itself. I think these at this point kind of are self-explanatory. They are on par with most of the Trijicon RMR stuff. They're pretty durable. I haven't had any issues with it so far. I went ahead and marked my screws just to see if they would be backing out at all, and they did a little bit the first time they went to range, and that was about a 400 or 500 course fire day. That may have just been user error. Since I tightened them just a little bit, I haven't had any other issues with them. The iron sights are pretty much nothing. I don't particularly use them. I just didn't feel good about not having any, so that's that. But as far as that goes, everything else is entirely stock trigger, stock everything else, except for the mag release. I do like this Tango Down mag release better than Glock's OEM stuff, just because it pushes the part where you actually depress back towards my hand. So as you can tell there, I'm able to hit this just a little easier without having to wrap my finger around so far forward to hit the flat OEM mag release. So that's pretty cool. I enjoy that. Nothing special there. I always put plugs in the bottom of the gun just because I don't like stuff getting in there. And then the TLR1, it is as much a TLR1 as any other is. It gets marred up quickly, which so does my black one. All this actually does clean off. It's not permanent, so when I clean stuff after the range, all this does come off and it looks new again, just to throw that out there. It's really just some plastic rubbing off from some Safariland holsters. And then the carbon buildup on the light is not incredibly easy to clean off. I've actually scraped it, trying to scrape some of it off, so I just stopped and called it a day. It is what it is. But other than that, that's that. Also, the MOS and a lot of the Gen 5s now come with the front serrations. Like I said, I've never had guns that had this before. I didn't really appreciate them until I got the red dot on here, and now I see the purpose of them more than just being tactical, is having a place to manipulate your gun that does not involve touching your red dot. Maybe it's just me. I don't like when there are smudges on the glass and then looking through and finding smudges and dirt and random things there, which seems to happen when I use my hand over the top, or if I try to do this, I end up putting my hand on the glass. So now I kind of see the point of front serrations, at least when you have a red dot. So that's pretty cool. But that's that. There's a look at it. I think the Glock 45 has had enough reviews out there. I'm not going to go into any further detail about it. For those of you who have medium to smallish hands and are used to the Glock finger nubs, I have always thought those were a good thing until I shot this gun and I realized that no finger grooves is probably the way to go. I think I'm able to get just a little bit higher up on the gun than normal, and I'm not pre-placing my fingers anywhere. They just are wherever they fall. So I enjoy that as well. I will update this as it goes along, but from right now, this is as good as it gets for me. Super excited about it. That being the case, here comes the other fun part, is a new holster. Everybody loves new holsters. This one's from Tier 1 Concealment, as I talked about just a little bit ago. And this is the light bearing model in their FDE kydex. This is a bigger package in the pants than I first thought. I mean, obviously I knew that having a light on it was going to be much larger than what I was used to just doing a 19 and a kydex holster with no light. But the way that they have it set up and the flexibility of it and how far these clips are from each other and how aggressive the wing is, it works really, really well. I went ahead and got the Wedge Pack, which I'm glad that I did, mostly because of the light. It sits, even if I move it more midline to my body, it sits right up against my leg depending on how I move or bend down or sit in the car, things like that. And I can feel just the edge of it. And it's not so much a pain thing, just as I notice it all the time. And so I put a medium on the slide and a small on the light, and that basically evens out the surface on top. I did that because when I did just the medium at first, it seemed like kind of a pressure point just because of how much was being pushed right there. So instead of it kind of my belly sitting flat across the entire product, it was mostly sitting just on this. And so I added the small on the light, and that gave a bigger surface area, and that's pretty much solved all those issues. It keeps the light off of me by tilting it forward just a tiny bit, and it also of course helps with the butt of the gun being pushed back towards me just a little bit as well, and that helps conceal it as well. So if you're going to buy these, or if you have one and aren't quite satisfied with it, this might be the option that you're looking for. So if you like to, the medium on the slide, small on the light is even. I would assume that also the large on the slide and the medium on the light would be the same thing if you wanted more. But that's that. Plenty of clearance for those sights, plenty of clearance for the dot. Nowhere does it ever touch. I enjoy that the mag retention is different and easy to get to, so I can adjust that kind of depending on how I feel at the moment. I did go ahead and specify that I wanted the extended magazine caddy because I knew that I was going to be running at a minimum the Glock OEM plus extenders, and I wanted it to be equal with the top of the gun. I have found that if I do that, as opposed to running with standard mags over here, this kind of helps even out what's touching me. And the way that I sit, especially in a car, when you essentially, all of you is back here, and when it tilts back, it puts a lot of pressure on this part, on the top of the magazine, if it's not even. If they're even, it seems to be distributing more of the pressure of the gun out. So just something to think about. That's about it for that. It's a pretty cool deal. I'm super excited. I will probably update you guys with this as well as time goes on. There are 1,000,001 videos on YouTube now about Tier 1 concealment products, so I'm not going to go blow your minds with anything that hasn't been said before. It's an excellent product. You pay for what you get, but it's totally worth it, I think. For my size of a person, which is a medium-sized guy who's not incredibly fit and not incredibly skinny either, being able to carry a full-size gun with a full-size grip and a light and the red dot and an extended magazine is a pretty impressive deal. Works with t-shirts, works with hoodies, works with pretty much whatever, cargo shorts and a button-down shirt. It's a real good deal. Pretty much anything other than shorts. I've seen that you can get the utility clips type deal. I can imagine that would work with like a 43. Obviously this is going to be way too heavy of a setup. This is pretty heavy, fully loaded, but for what most people wear and what I mostly wear, this is an excellent product. But that is about all. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you.